Hello, everybody. In today's lecture, we're going to begin our introduction to metabolism. And by the end of this module, you should be able to define metabolism, describe differences between anabolism and catabolism and how those two things are related, and define ATP and how it is recharged by ADP-ATP cycling. We can break metabolism down into two sides. We have chemical reactions that break down substances, and in doing so, they produce energy. And then we have chemical reactions that build up substances using that energy that was released. So these two sides are connected. And so let's talk a little bit more about that. So generally speaking, we think of metabolism in these two pathways of catabolic and anabolic. The catabolic pathways are those ones that release energy by breaking chemical bonds. And then the anabolic pathways are the ones that use energy to make new chemical bonds. Although there are amphibolic pathways that have this dual role and can be used for building up and breaking down. Now, when I think of catabolic reactions, I like to think about cats. Cats are known for breaking things into pieces, tearing things to shreds, such as this cute little kitty here breaking down this box. Kata is Greek for down, right? And so when a cell breaks down a sugar into CO2 and water, that's going to be a process of catabolism. Now, when you do this, this is generally going to be hydrolytic reactions, all right? So you're hydrolyzing bonds, and they're exergonic reactions, so they're producing energy. Now, anabolic reactions are going to be building up, right? So ana is Greek for up. And so when we make proteins out of amino acids, or when we make DNA out of nucleotides, or when we make starch out of sugar, that's going to all be an anabolic reaction. These are building up. Now, I like to remember this because anabolic steroids are what bodybuilders take to build up their muscles. Now, these processes are generally dehydration synthesis reactions, and they tend to be endergonic, which means that they are using energy. These reactions are often coupled, so you will have these situations where you have a complex molecule that gets broken down into simple molecules, and those simple molecules and energy and in the form of ATP usually. Then you have these simple molecules and energy coming together to form the more complex molecules. A good example of this is ATP. ATP is produced catabolically because you're building something, right? And it provides the energy when it's broken down to make anabolic reactions. And so there's a nice little analogy we can use to think of ATP as like currency or metabolic money. And so things are worth money, but you can't just spend your record, I say record collection, but whatever it is, you can't just trade your car for a house, right? Like I know that bartering is a thing, but it's not the easiest way to make things happen. And so you need cash. You need to sell it, and then you can use that money to buy something else. So cells use ATP as a way of like using money, basically, or a currency. And so they get that money when they break down nutrients. So they get ATP when they break things down. And then they have to spend that money when they're building things. Now, the amount that they get and spend depends on the products that they're using, right? So fats contain a lot of energy. So when you break them down, you get more currency than you do when you break down carbohydrates. Big difference, though, is that you can't save ATP. There is no ATP bank. Now, here's what ATP looks like. You've got adenosine triphosphate, right? So this is the RNA base adenine, right? So you've got your adenine, and then you've got your ribose sugar, and then your three phosphates. If you have two phosphates, it's called ADP. If you have one phosphate, it's called AMP. Now, when you remove that terminal phosphate by dephosphorylation, it releases energy, and then you get ADP, right? And then you can get more ATP by adding a phosphate group to ADP through the process of phosphorylation. So we can see that here. We have ADP or ATP. It's got 3 phosphates. You dephosphorylate, you release an energy. You have a phosphate that's released, and then you phosphorylate, right? And that is the addition of energy to put this phosphate back on to make ATP. Now, if you remember, when you make DNA, you actually cleave off the pyrophosphate. So you cleave off the 2 terminal phosphates, and that's what provides the energy to make the bonds of in DNA and RNA. All right. And so with that, you should now be able to define metabolism, describe the differences between anabolism and catabolism, describe how catabolic and anabolic reactions depend on each other, and talk about ATP and how it is cycled. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in class. Bye-bye.